All right, welcome back. So in this one, we are going to take a look at how you can create custom clothing for Freemode models. So in the last one, if you haven't seen it already, I showed you how you go about streaming content for Freemode, like Freemode models. In this one, I'm going to show you how you can create your own custom outfits. Basically, you can take whatever. If you know how to do 3D, it's obviously easier because then you usually know how to create something. If you know how to skin, you're gonna be a god at this. So, but anyways, it's fairly easy, even if you don't have any prior experience with this kind of stuff. So let's just jump into it. Like I said, you can basically take any sort of model from anywhere. In this case, I'm gonna be using Nico Bellic's shirt, because I don't believe you can use that normally. So in this case, I'm gonna find his MPM Nico 01, and I'm gonna be joining that jacket of his. You can obviously, for this tutorial, you can use something else in this list. You can also find something on the internet, whatever. Basically, anything you can import into 3ds Max, you can do this with. There obviously has to be some retrofitting. You have to make sure it fits the model. So, but we are just gonna take this one for this example. Let's make sure we have our 3ds Max started in OpenIV. We are just gonna find our, there we go. So in search, we're gonna find MP_M Nico on 01. We're gonna get these folders here. So for this one, we're just gonna go into this folder because that's where his model is located. And for this, we just want the upper because that is his jacket. So we want the upper for the model. We want the upper texture. So as per usual, just exporting. I'm gonna create a, let's see if I have a, do not. So as per usual, I'm just going to create a new folder, call it clothing tutorial, and we're just going to dump it in here. So that's the upper model. I'm going to do the same thing with this one and select folder. So now we have the model. What you want to do now is you want to go to, you can search in the search bar. In this case, I have my favorite set to streampet_mp. It's located at X64V model CD images streampets_mp. And then in here, what we want to find is we want to find either this one, mp_m Freemode, or we want to find the mp_f Freemode. Obviously, like last time, F is for female, M is for male. So in this tutorial, we're gonna make something for males. The thing is that you can make it for either or, and you can always just copy paste it over. The bones and everything kind of works for both male and female, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So I'm gonna right click on this. I'm gonna export skeleton to open format. We're just gonna dump this in the same folder. And just like we've always done, we're gonna find a piece of clothing that fits this jacket. So I'm gonna go back to our DLC in updates, and then actually that's incorrect. DLC packs in GTA V, where we have all our DLCs. I'm gonna go to my own. So I've created a website, toby.space, where I have all clothing indexed with their names and what DLC they're part of. So in this case, we want to go to JPEG because it's a jacket. Then we have everything listed down here. So we can go back, take a look at his model. So we can see this is a jacket, it's a leather jacket. So we want to find something that's pretty close to that. It has the color. So just gonna look a bit here. So we might actually be good with something like this. So above the image, you can see we have MPM Freemode, MPM Battle. So we just want to copy paste this part here. Go back. Go to search. And it's going to search for the folder. I'm going to go in here. And then we can see it's JBIB 009. So we're going to scroll down. We're going to find JBIB 009. You can see this is the leather jacket. So I'm going to right click on this, export, same folder. I'm going to go down and we're going to find, I'm just going to search for JBIB real quick. We don't have a ton of things. So we're going to find JBIB 09. And we're just going to take the first one, JBIB diff 009A. Export that one. So, go to my desktop, go to clothing tutorial, which is the place we have everything. So, something to keep in mind is you might want to, if you make a custom piece of clothing, you want to make sure that these clothing pieces fit with either the female model or the male model. So what I suggest you do is you extract the upper torso and lower torso and the head, like all these pieces of the models, just so you can see if they fit. So in this case, like I said, I'm making the male model, so I'm gonna go into my stream pets, MP Freemode, and then we're gonna go to, we're gonna take a head. So in this case, head 000. So just this one. This is the default head. We're just gonna export that. We don't really care too much about the textures. And we're gonna take the upper. So in this case, upper 15, because that's the full body. And export that. So there we go. So now we have all our files. So the way that we tell the game, or when we import something, if you import a piece of clothing right now, it's going to show up in 3ds Max with fake bones. So you're going to do the same thing as I've shown in the previous tutorials with pedestrian models. We're going to take the MP Freemode skeleton, going to rename this to the same as the piece of clothing from GTA that we want to use. So in this case, it's JBIB 009. So this one, we're just going to rename the skeleton file to JBIB 009U space now I forgot, actually, for some reason. Let me just go check my own stuff real quick. I have so many things. Belt full, so it was full. I was a bit confused. So it's space full, like this. Then we go into 3ds Max, start GIMS Evo. And then we can import. So I'm gonna just import the Nico top first, so I can show you what it will look like if there's no skeleton file. So that would be the upper 000. We import this one. And let it do its thing. So you can see we have a lot of fake bones. And that is because it doesn't have a skeleton file to take info from. So if we go back and import our upper 015, where we have the skeleton file renamed. I'm just going to click on clothing tutorial. Yep. And let us do its thing. Oh, that is incorrect. This is not the one we were looking for. This is the upper body part. I am a Pepega, so I'm going to import the JBIB one. Might as well import the head one as well while we're at it. So the JBIB one is the one where we renamed. Let it do its thing. So obviously much of this is where you can kind of look at the other tutorials I've made, because it's somewhat the same. You just have to attach the piece of clothing to the piece of clothing we made, export it, and it should be somewhat good to go. Obviously, there can always be issues with the skinning and how it looks. So this is what it looks like when you have the skeleton file set up correctly. You can see we have the root file, pelvis, spine, and then in these we have all the different pieces of the skeleton. So we just want to, first of all, as per usual, materials, disable transparency, show view or viewport clipping, just do this. So if we click on our file, we have our high, low, and medium. So in this case, we're just going to disable these two. If we click on our head, same case. And we click on the arms, same case here. So we actually don't need any of these fake bones. So what we can do is we can just take the upper body and drag it out. So now it's just its own thing. We're just going to take this one, right click, select child nodes, and delete. We're basically just using this as a reference. We're going to do the same with the what was it, with the head. So just click on the head here. For the head, we're just going to pull this one out, right click, select child nodes, and delete. Now we have these two just as reference points. And then we have our jacket. I'm going to click on the jacket and just hide this one real quick. So you can see that if we look at this jacket from Nico, you can see there is a few things. There's this part here that's going to stick out because we have the upper body to use as a reference. So you can see that around the wrist area, it's off. And the same goes for this part over here. But other than that, it's not too bad. So in this case, it's really just the arm we have to adjust. So what we can do is we can apply an FFD modifier. So for this, since we just have, the only thing we need, and this goes for everything, we just need the mesh. So as with the other one, we can just take the upper, pull it out, and just delete all the bones so they're just not in the way. So for the upper, select child nodes and delete. So we have our upper part here. So you go to your modifiers, you add, or you click on editable mesh, go to modifier list, and then you say FDD. So we have these, and then you're gonna select FFD, not FDD, FFD box. This will show these points where you can basically, so if we click on this and go to control points, what you can do with this is you can modify the mesh without having to change the individual vertex. So if I select all of these and start moving, you can see that it warps the mesh in a way where it still keeps the actual mesh somewhat nice and clean. So for this one, we kind of just want to fix the mesh around the wrist and maybe a little bit at the back of the arm. So we set number of points. We want this to be a few more in width. I'm going to set this to 8. That gives us a few more points to work with. We also maybe want for length, we want to make that 3. So it's a bit easier. And then we can kind of start doing our thing. Obviously, if you're good at 3D, this is easier. But this is a good way of going about it just for beginners. So we kind of just want to move the arms back a little, because it's not really that bad. Upper body is usually split up in between into different sections, as you can see when we go to upper. There's different arms, different pieces missing, and so on. So we just select these points here and here on either side, and then we kind of just move those back. So if we go down to the wrist area, you can see this is already much better. Already much better. I'm gonna move this one a little bit more. So there we go. We go take a look at the other one. That's also all right. There's still a little bit sticking out, but like I said, we're not really gonna be using this much, as we are gonna most likely be using the upper part that is consisting of basically the forearms, if not less. No, that one doesn't have anything at all. Neither does that one. So basically either this one or maybe number 12, as you can see where it's just the wrists. So the wrists are basically in place. Yep. The neck area seems good. Not really anything there. So you're going to go back up to your modifiers. You're going to right click and then you're going to say collapse to. Click on yes. So now you can see that we have collapsed the FFD modifier into our model. If you don't do this, it will make the export and it will, for some reason, it will collapse, or it will take the FFD modifier and apply it twice. So you're suddenly going to have it all sorts of fucked up mesh. Just keep that in mind. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our JBIP and we're going to find our JBIP UI. So in this case, because Nico's jacket does not exist in low or medium LODs, we're going to take these two and we're just going to delete those. We're not going to need those. If there is a medium and a low LOD, make sure you use those. Make sure you do the same thing to make them somewhat fit, and make sure that you apply them, because you don't want a high poly model to be loaded at all times. It really fucks with everybody's FPS, so just keep that in mind. In this case, we only have the high model, so we're just going to use that. So we're going to unhide our JBIP. We're going to go into editable mesh and we're click on an attach. And then we're going to attach our upper 000, or we can do it in the viewport. So in this case, it's over here. Click on that. We're going to match material IDs. Yes. Going to go into our polygon mode. Going to click on a piece of the jacket, which will have the set ID 1. Click on select ID, and we're going to delete that. Going to click on Nico's jacket, select ID 2, and we're going to set this ID to 1. Something to keep in mind is if you're doing something that is completely custom, make sure that your illumination is set to black. If it's set to white, apparently there is some modifier that makes the wind do something to your model, so they start shaking weirdly and shit like that. So make sure it's set to black. Make sure the color is set to this yellow color. So it's roughly these colors. It's usually around the orange, depending on how self-illuminating you want it to be. I usually use 251138, but this one is fine. So now you can see that the jacket is all sorts of weird looking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a clothing tutorial, and we're going to go into our upper 000, which is where we have Nico's textures. We can just open these up just to check. This is the upper normal map, and this is the upper specular. So we're going to just take these two. We're just going to copy those. Go into our clothing tutorial again. Go into JBIP 009, since this is the one we've been using. Paste that in here. Gonna just copy the JBIP normal and then just delete these. Boop. So the upper normal we're gonna rename to normal 009. And this one we're gonna make spec 009. We're gonna go back to our clothing. Go back to, let's see, upper. Now what was this? So upper diff 000 A, blah blah blah. Yeah, well, basically the actual texture itself. Something that also is a tip. If you want, so most servers, oh, not most servers, some servers make you play on normal quality. If you up the texture, don't be that guy. Don't go to 2K or 4K for a texture on a piece of clothing. Just don't do it. Like, go to 1024 and don't go above that. There's really no reason to do 2K or 4K on a piece of clothing. In this case, I'm just gonna leave it as it is. So I'm just gonna copy this again. So Control C, go into JBIP, paste it, copy the name of this texture, delete it, and rename it. So if you go back in here, sometimes this will update, other times it will not. If it doesn't, you can go, or you should go into your GIMS Evo, go to Material Editor, take the ID 1, which is the one we've been using, go to Bump, JBIP Normal, and we're going to go into our clothing tutorial, go into our JBIP 009U, and since we were on Bump, it's the normal one. Click on that, go to Specular, take the Specular, and then we go to Diffuse. Gonna jump back twice and go into JBIP Diffuse and click on this one. There we go. So in this case, it doesn't update in the viewport. That's just 3ds Max being 3ds Max. It does that sometimes. So we can go into our modifiers. We can go to skinning, and then we can check the envelopes and turn on vertex. So if we select something like well, the elbow or the pelvis, you can see there's all these points up. So that means the skinning is already applied to our jacket. So we should be pretty much good to go. I'm just going to close the editor. Going to click on export into our clothing tutorial. And remove these so we don't export those, and then we have our dictionary models with all the bones and so on. Click on continue, and then we can go into, in my case I have a pet models, Freemode, and then I have a compile, which is where I just put my models into to check them. So we're going to go back to clothing tutorial. We're going to take JBIP 009 and JBIP diff 009A uni. Drag those in here. And if we click on this, you can see we have our upper. So I realized that I already made a mistake. So, and good thing we didn't get too far. We did not apply, or we did not weld all our vertices. So click on vertex, click Control A to select everything. Go into weld and make sure it's set to 001. It's weld. You can see there's some changes here. Just make sure that they don't merge some of these vertices together. Should not be the case. Should be all right. So you make sure that this is, you know, so we weld everything together. Just click it once more to make sure everything is good. And then should be all right. Go back to export, closing tutorial, deselect, and continue. Let it do its thing. All right. Go back. We're just going to import this one since the texture has not changed, but this one we want to update. So now you can see before we had some lines here. That's literally, well, that is gone now. So now we have this piece of clothing. It looks all right. Doesn't seem to be broken anywhere. So that should be good to go. So like in my last tutorial, I believe, where I showed you how to stream, we are going to go and find GTA utility. And I think it was tutorial, npm Freemode, components, JBIP. We're just going to take these two, drop them in here. So this one we're going to, so JBIP, which is the model file, we're going to rename this to 2. Gonna make a new folder 2. Control X to cut. You can also just right click and cut. Go into 2, paste it here and rename it to 0 because this is the first texture and also the only texture. We're gonna go back to our tutorial or GTA utility folder. I'm gonna copy my path and I'm gonna open terminal in my case, or you can do it in command prompt. I'm gonna do cd space the path, and then we need the command to make our output. So, like I said, go back to the tutorial if you don't remember how to do this. In my case, I'm gonna actually do this real quick. So input is tutorial. Output is tutorial streaming. We don't want any reserved, and we don't want any reserved props. So just gonna copy this, put that in here, and then make it do its thing. All right, that's good to go. So we have our tutorial streaming folder. Go in and check. We now have JBIP, JBIP, JBIP. So we have all the files we need. So we're just going to right click on this. We're going to copy. And then we're going to go into our server. FX server. Resources. In my case, that is whatever. And then we have our tutorial streaming. So we're just going to paste this in here. Replace everything. Should be good. All right. We go back into our... So in my case, I disabled my... my streaming folder, tutorial streaming. So I'm just going to enable that again. We are going to start our server. Going to open FiveM. Going to connect to our local host. But yeah, as per usual, if you know more about how to use 3ds Max, you're going to have an easier time doing this. There's not really too much magic. If you're good at skinning, it makes it easier for you. If you're good at all this kind of stuff, yeah, it's most definitely going to be easier for a person that knows about it in the first place. So, all right. So we're going to go into player skins, players, and then we're going to do MP mail. Gonna go to modify skin textures, and for the t-shirt we're just gonna disable that so it doesn't look all sorts of fucky. And then we're gonna go into shirts and jackets, and like I said last time, it's always or mostly around 16 we get all the custom ones. So in this case you can see 18 is our jacket, and like I said, you can see the arms are poking through, so that is because it's not like you can make it fit with the FFD modifier if that's what you want. I'm not gonna tell you no, but if we go into top, you can see if we select this one, there is no issues because it's basically just around the wrist, and anything that goes up is not showed. So you can see it fits perfectly. It looks pretty good. I don't know why people are not using this in general. Just have a few different styled ones. You can see it. It moves and everything. There is a little bit of scuff around this area under the arms. That's always the case. Even GTA and Rockstar's own clothing has this. If we go into our 3ds Max, we click... I'm actually gonna just apply this texture. And then if you go into skinning, envelopes, you can see if we select, I believe it's arm roll, you can see that arm roll has a lot of weight around the, like under the arm area. And because it has this weight around this area, it's causing it to pull in when he lowers his arms. I don't know why Rockstar did it as an A pose rather than a T pose. T pose would make this so much easier. But hey, obviously if you know how to skin, you can fix this. In my opinion, lowering the weight on this area, if you don't know how to skin, just find out some tutorials to get started. It's not too hard, but it takes a little bit of time, especially because you have to go back in, check it, go out, make changes, go back in, check it. But you can see it's under the arms area. It's always this area that's causing issues. Even Rockstar has it on some of their things. If we do some animations, cheat. There we go. If you do some chin-ups, you can see it is a little bit scuffed when he lifts his arms. So there's definitely some fixing you can do. But like I said, this is the easy way to do it if you don't know how to skin at all. It works. It's not always pretty, but here we are. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I will be back with another tutorial soon. And yeah, as always, join my Discord if you need some help. Follow me on Twitch. All the usual bullshit. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.